Awesome. I think we got it, guys. That was painless. Hey, after a bunch of technical difficulties, I think we finally got it. Working through some software issues. Thank God I'm drinking good coffee. All right, so I'll wait here just a few seconds and then we'll get started on the live stream. For any of you that were coming by and trying to join in, I do apologize. This is the second live stream. I'm using a software I have just started using a week ago. Thought I had things dialed in. I thought wrong. And things were overcropped. And I promised you guys last time we'd get that figured out. So I didn't want to move ahead with the cropping issues. Anyways, you guys aren't here to listen to me talk about cropping issues. You're here to listen to and think together about the thoughts on the market and where we're going. So let's get started on that. I have a list here of things I want to go over. I'm going to periodically check in on the chat about every 5 or so minutes. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask them below. And it sounds like the sound's working good. So let's get into it. Drinking some great coffee. I had a workout this morning, drank some good coffee. Let's get into it. So first, let's start off with Fear and Greed from CNN. And let's make sure we refresh this so everything looks good and up to date. And CNN, Fear and Greed. Right now, we are at low neutral. Okay. I know there's a bit of a sell-off that happened yesterday with some of the mag stocks, but some of the small caps have been running a little bit. And as far as pie vesting, we are also in greed, but coming down a little bit. And we have earnings reports this week, guys. There's a lot of them. And there are quite a few stocks on here of products that I use or have used in companies that I like. And before we progress any further, if any of these companies interest you and you're looking at putting your hard-earned money into it. Now, on this channel, I take a look at the technical charts as we are going to do here. We're going to start off with the S&P 500. But I encourage all of you to do your research. And whatever stock you're going to take a look at. Today, one of the stocks we're going to take a look at is Coca-Cola. I promise you that. You can go on sites like marketwatch.com and look at their balance sheet. And guys, do your research. Do your research. None of this is financial advice. You know that. But if you're looking at stocks, one of the very first steps you can do is go on a site like this, look at the balance sheet, and just compare the assets to liabilities. You can start there. Coca-Cola, total current assets, 27 billion. Total assets, 100 billion. So 27 and 100. Total current liabilities, a little less at 24. Total liabilities, 70. You always want the assets to be over the liabilities. You'd like to see the assets also increasing and the liabilities not increasing too much. That's one of the first general things you can look at. I had a comment in one of my recent videos, what's my plan? Share more of my plan with you. I don't want anything here to be construed as financial advice. But what I will say is I first have to use the product from the stock. I have to like the product. That's the best way to have insider information on whether or not I'm going to stick with it. And then I do research. I weigh the pros. The balance sheet is one of them. I weigh the cons. I look at what are my top 3 pros, top 3 cons, look at the charts, look where the trends are, where there's value, and then I make a decision after waiting a day or so. So just know this is part of how you can do that. Of course, we'll talk about crypto here. Let's go look at the dumb versus smart money. I haven't looked at these charts in a few months. And what we can see here is dumb money is trending upwards. We're just looking at the past 3 years. and smart money's trending downwards. Now that's kind of funny because, smart money, it shows here, smart money's selling off whereas dumb money's buying in. So you do want to watch these charts from time to time. And I think that makes sense when we're going to get into some of this a little bit. Some of these stocks have had we have to zoom in a little, have had recent pullbacks, even stuff like Nvidia. Nvidia had a recent pullback to somewhere around 25%, 25% since the top. So that's something to keep in mind. That smart money, you guys just saw the smart money charts. They're selling off, dumb money's going in. So do be careful. And again, I'm not here to show people how to trade, but we are taking, at least for me, I'm taking any trading skills or trade vesting skills I have, and the way I look at the stock market in comparison to crypto is so volatile and it's a casino and you can make great money off it. And if I make large sums of money as I have in the past, I want to put it into something less volatile. And that's why we look at the stocks. So we looked at fear and greed. We're coming down. We're in the neutral territory. We're going to go over earnings reports. Crypto fear and greed, by the way, where are we at on this guy? I may have to refresh this just so we're up to date. We're still in high green. And you got to love all these advertisements. I promise I never look at anything bad on this computer. But over the last year, we'll get into this. Crypto, it's been pretty high in the greed, and now we've seen this recent downtrend. Lower highs, lower lows. Keep an eye on it. This thing's getting pretty big here, so who knows? I think a big move's coming, up or down. But let's talk about stocks first. Let's get that out of the way. Let's take a look at the S&P. Now, something I've noted before is the S&P since the 2008 Great Financial Crisis, it's been in this upward channel. Let's go to the weekly so we can view this quicker. So it's been in this upward channel. You can see here, we had the lost decade. The red lines, by the way, were the first rate cuts. So something to keep in mind. Not that this has to happen again, but these red lines is when the Fed first cut rates after holding higher for longer. And you can see the bottom was about a year and a half away. But look at this channel that goes up from the highs to the lows. And we haven't hit that low end of the channel since 2020. But I also drew in some of these other trend lines as well. So this is the upper end of the channel, and we're getting there. We're crawling there. You can see the S&P got above this point right here. It has this strong wick on the weekly. So if the S&P continues to move up into what some people are calling a bubble, I think there's further upside to go. One of the areas to watch would be the low 6,000s. If it gets as high as it could get, where we have a euphoric market, I'm not saying it will get there, but if so, you're looking in the high 6,000s. Again, seems crazy, but instead of getting in the prediction game, let's just take the data for what it's given us. And then if it continues to tread higher, greed's going to get into extreme greed. That might be when crypto starts popping off too. Because in the past, by the way, these green lines, if you're wondering where the Bitcoin tops were, I have them right here in these vertical green lines. The double top here in Bitcoin. Let's go on the rainbow chart. This double top, you guys can see that. That was here. And you can see the SP just says a little bit more before it goes down. 2017, the 2017 top, look at that. Things got a little dicey afterwards. The 2013 top, and of course, crypto wasn't as widely accepted, but it's interesting. 2013 is kind of an enigma, but again, not a lot of people were talking about Bitcoin back then. This is kind of where it started. Maybe you heard about it or read about it somewhere and you just dismissed it. But as Bitcoin and cryptos become bigger, I think it's kind of curious that it's not too far before the top. So if this continues to go up, I do wonder where crypto is going to be. Crypto golfer, a lot of smart money has been on the sidelines since 22. Not that I'm smart money. Yeah, I would agree with that. A lot of people, Michael Burry and others, are talking about how this market's in a bubble. Now, even though I was only a teenager, I viscerally remember this because I was talking with my dad about stocks back then. People were talking about a bubble back here in the late 90s and how they were getting out. And it still ran from these times. You know, every time it hit the 50 or even the 100, people thought, oh, that's it, that's over. And it still ran another 60%. So bubbles become devoid from reality. And I don't blame smart money for staying on the sidelines, but depending on how much higher it can get, you know, that's why I take a look at this as investment strategy. Because let's say we do get a big pullback and we get in hard here and then things run really good and then we get a crash and it goes lower than where we were. Well, we didn't miss these entry points then. So that's why I look at moving averages, because even if they do get lower overall, it does pay off in the long run. Let's move over to the VIX, volatility. Volatility has started to possibly reverse trends. Historically speaking, when the volatility is above 25, typically a good time to look for deals in the stock market. You can see here 2020, anytime the news is really bad and volatility is like above 40, that's when you got to really start dollar cost averaging in. Not financial advice, but those tend to be lows in the markets. And me, I'm not trying to time the market per se. In a way, I guess you could argue I am. But I'm also trying to dollar cost average in as we get into those dips and come out of them. And I'm patient. I have a budget. I'm not spending more than I can afford to lose, and I'm scooping stocks up. If Apple or Amazon starts getting more than 30-40% off, yeah, I'm buying it. And I don't care if it goes 60% off. I'm buying that whole dang dip. So just something to watch. The volatility, it's been at historic lows, but typically when we are going into election times, volatility tends to run up a little bit higher. And so it would not surprise me if volatility starts running higher and the markets get choppy. And also, I mean, here's the other thing. Look at October the last few years. You can see at the bottom of the screen, October, right here, the lowest point of that year. October 22, lowest point of that year. Where is October 21? Yeah, right here, little dip before it fell off. But October, and then the elections in November, something to watch for. Let's go take a look at the Dow. Dow, we're kind of reaching the upper end of this channel. I talked about the S&P channel. The Dow, if it gets above that, watch out. But that's my cat's automatic feeder. I apologize. But if it starts getting above there, watch out. These are some of the areas. If the Dow is down here, I think that's great dollar cost average potential. Okay, we looked at, hey, I have a little to-do list here. We looked at the balance sheet. I talked about how I only invest in stocks I like, use, research. And again, if you like a stock up here, you should love it when it's down here. That's my market psychology. We want to look at things without emotion, because when things get down, we get emotional, we get sad. And we don't know if things are going to go down. But if we change our perspective and mindset and say, you know what, I love this stock, and if it gets 50% off, I'm excited. That's what we have to look at. So let's start running through earnings reports, and then we'll get to crypto, because I know that's what a lot of you guys are here for. Deep down, it's hard to ignore those emotions, and we're all degenerate gamblers. So let's start off by looking at some of these. And how about Verizon? I'm curious about that. What is Verizon looking like? I'll try to fly through these on the charts. Verizon, you can see, man, when it got underneath the 200, it fell off a cliff. how much did Verizon fall off here? 50%. So talk about a discount. And it got back above the 50. Right now it's trying to stay above the 100, but it might be losing steam. Nice little base here. But you could say, all right, that's a decent discount on Verizon. Guys, this is the monthly chart. And if you look at this, it got all the way under the 200 monthly. So this thing is sold off hard. Now, when's the last time it did this? Look at this, great financial crisis, .com bubble. So take from that what it's worth. You could say it's deep value, but you could also say, hey, Verizon was worth more before the .com bubble. So me, I'm not touching it. Let's look at Spotify. No, that was another one. Let's drag this over. Spotify. Some of these I'm just curious of. If I use a product and I like it and I see it as earnings, I'll take a look at it. Okay, so this one IPO'd not too long ago. And guys, what do I tell you about new stocks and cryptos? I don't touch the ones that are 2 years or younger. So from the IPO at around 160, man, it fell off, did 50% off, and this thing's just been running. So yeah, do your research on Spotify. It's worth 63 billion market cap. But this is pretty extended right now. I would not be surprised to see a little bit of a pullback. So right now it's gone up to 347. If it had a little bit of a retrace, even as much as 62%, I could see it. But just something to keep in mind. I'm not buying it right now. But, write down a list. What are products you like, use? And if you catch one on the earnings reports, start keeping track of it and be patient. Tesla. Let's take a look at Tesla. Mag 7 stock. That one must have had some important moves. Okay. Now here we're looking at the monthly, and it's curious how the monthly has a wick above this channel that we've drawn, or this wedge pattern. You can see here we have this red long-legged doji. Let's add on buy-sell signal indicators. Now, no sell signal yet. And for any of you who are new to this channel, I'm not pro-Elon, I'm not anti-Elon, but here's the way I look at Tesla. It's been as high as 420, and it has a market cap of 700 billion. Okay, it used to be higher. It used to be in the trillions. So what would that be, around 1.5 trillion? We're going to take a look at Ford and GM today. There's Ford, there's GM. Tesla has had, for the last few years, a market cap 15 to 20 times higher than those stocks. Now, you can call this a tech stock, and I love the balance sheet. I think Tesla has a great balance sheet, but you can't ignore the fact that most of its revenue comes from automotive. And until we are getting to the day where we're all going to have self-driving cars, and Tesla would probably be front-running that. Overall, this says 15 to 20 times the market cap. And even with its revenue being automotive, 90% plus automotive, their revenue is half of Ford or GM. Ford and GM, I just told you, their market cap's around 50 billion. So when we get a recession, I'm not big on Tesla. I could see it falling down to the 50s. I know that sounds crazy, but I'm waiting to see what it does in this wedge. I'm wondering if this is a fake out, and if it continues in here, get that, it's later December, early next year. We're going to talk about the yield curve here in a minute, but yeah, I could see it falling off. I forgot to talk about the yield curve. Guys, something to keep an eye on. Just going to touch on this. Yield curve broke out of this downtrend. It's getting up to the 200-week moving average. If you're asking, why is this important, U.S. 10-year, 2-year, right, does that have something to do with bonds? Yes, it does. And the simplified way of telling you guys this is when rates get higher, the yield goes down, so the yield gets inverted. When they cut rates, then a month or two, the yield curve inverts. It's a very simplified way of looking at it. You could get in the weeds and go over how much the banks or other countries are buying, selling bonds, and get more of an outlook on which direction the economy is going. Again, I don't want this channel to get too into the weeds like a lot of others do. Those people who do, they have a lot more knowledge than I do and can talk about this stuff better than I can. Okay? Again, not a financial advisor, but I try to do my research. Here's the important part. When the yield curve inverts and then uninverts, you can see the dates at the bottom. Typically, recessions and downturns in the markets come after. Now, does it have to happen right as it uninverts? No. But if it does uninvert, get above the zero line. Just be extra careful. Let's take a look at UPS. Let's get back to the earnings reports. I want to run through these kind of quick. UPS, overall doesn't look too bad. Okay, now right now, it's underneath the values of, or the moving averages, the 50, the 100, 200. So right now it's a falling knife. And I would be looking at some structure here first. You can see it at a bounce, but then it went lower. So there's a lot of structure in here. I would look to see UPS form a base around this low 100 area. But again, do your research. Next, let's go to Google, Mag 7 stock. And if there's any earnings reports on the screen, by the way, that jump out to you that you would like for me to take a look at quick, let me know. Let me check the comments real quick. Crypto Golfer, appreciate you, buddy. I like a lot of stocks, but crypto and AI is my thesis for the next 20 years. I can buy that. MSTR, Bitcoin, Tesla, Nvidia, and Sol. Not very diversified, but I'm willing to die on this hill. Hey, put your money where your mouth is, man. I like it. You know, how many shots do we get at this when we get recessions or deep value? You know, once a decade, if that. So if you've done your research, you like it, you love it, put your money where your mouth is, and I hope it pays off for you, man. You know, that's why I'm in the crypto. And I've had people say some pretty nasty, colorful things to me about it. And, you know, good for them. But I look at it this way, like if we only get one solid chance every decade, you gotta take advantage of it. Otherwise, you just watch everyone else benefit from it. And you can't win them all. You can't hit home runs on all of them. So I like that conviction, man. I really do. We are going to look at Google. I have a friend who's a Bitcoin maxi, and he's been buying Bitcoin since it was at 10K. And that was in 2017, even before it topped. And, you know, he's doing great. He's going to be a millionaire, I think. So let's go over to Google. Google, look at this. We had this macro Fibonacci. And, well, let's make sure it's off a log because we're talking about, it is. So when we look at price extensions, we take it off a log, and it was getting to the 1618 at 193. Maybe it got close, but then it sold off pretty good. Now, when you look at Google, what's it been doing on its way up? It likes the 20-week, but every once in a while, it comes down to this 50-week moving average. Now, we'll see if it does it again, but if it does, long term, I like Google at 150. As far as the Mag 7 stocks, it has one of the lower PE ratios, price to earnings ratios, out of all of them. Now, it's still high. It's somewhere around 30. I think we can take a look at this. Dividends, no. Performance technicals. Where is it? I want to say it's in more financials. Yes, price to earnings ratio. So overall, heck, it's even in the 20s. I thought it was in the 30s. Okay, I was wrong. Some of these other stocks, like NVIDIA, the PE, look at that, 65. Now, bubble territory is when a bunch of stocks start getting up there. So if you want to just consider PE-wise of the AI 5 stocks, this one, long-term, I like its potential. So if it gets down here, I think that's a juicy spot to at least dollar cost average in some. Even if we get a recession, I would not mind picking up some Google right there. Let's take a look at, let's see, GM. Let's go over GM. Let's do Ford and GM right now because we recently talked about Tesla. And again, guys, look at this market cap, 50 billion. Now, you can double check this so you're not just trusting me, bro. but their revenue, Ford and GM, higher than Tesla, and their market cap's way lower. I can't justify that in my head, even for all the things I do like about Tesla. Now let's zoom out here in GM. Man, this thing's just been chopping sideways. Ford is very similar. Now it's in this up movement. I wouldn't be buying this right now. Plus, used car sales. I've been looking at some charts with used car sales going down. Ford. This is one stock, man. I feel bad for anyone who's bought this shit. Sorry for the language. I mean, we're talking about in the 70s, this thing being worth more than it is now. It's just been oscillating. Now, could you buy it here? Look at this. Ford is as low as it's ever been. So you can say, well, you know, eventually it'll chop up again. And maybe it'll get to 50. And it'll do a 10x. Okay. You know, but right now, right now, Ford is a falling knife. Do your research. Man, it has a buy. Look at this. Just what a piece of crap chart. Now, there's two ways to look at this guy. Some people, they start frothing and foaming at the mouth when they see it. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to get amazing value. No one else sees this. That might happen, and I hope it does if that's your perspective. Or you could take a look at it as no one's buying this for a reason, and you want to acknowledge what those reasons are. Again, when you make a plan, whatever stock it is, write down 3 of the biggest pros, 3 of the biggest cons, wait a day or two, and then make a choice. But yeah, Ford, ugh. Let's look at its market cap. Its market cap, 4 million? Really? Is that correct? Oh, Jesus Christ. All right, let's move on. Let's see, we have Visa. I'm just curious what the credit card company is going to do. I'll try to move quicker so we can get to crypto talk. I know that's what you guys are here for. Visa overall this is a strong looking chart. This looks like Cintas. This looks like Amazon, Google, stronger charts. You can see when it gets that 200, it bounces. Right now, it's holding the 50. You want to see a bounce here in order to stay bullish. But if it gets under, you might have some good long-term value on Visa. Something to watch for. Coca-Cola. That's one of Warren Buffett's darling stocks. Coke and Pepsi. Now, by the way, if you don't know this, they're not just soda stocks. They own so much else. And right now, Coke is getting back up to its all-time high from April of 22. Man, look at that. Recently, did any of you get Coke when it's at $50? It's got a good dividend. It's a good stock. And if you can get it around the 100, 200, it's a good stock to DCA into. Ooh, we got some more comments. Let me check back with the comments. I used to try to explain Bitcoin and blockchain to people, but I've stopped trying. It's not worth the headache. I agree, Crypto Golfer. What do you think about FTAI? Crypto Golfer again. GM confounds me. They prop up the stock with buybacks and they can't make EVs profitable. And it still bothers me the government bailed them out. Yeah. You know, I think the bailout, my opinion, had a lot to do with voters. I have an uncle who worked for GM at one of the GM plants, and it's in an important swing state. So sometimes I think that has something to do with it. FTAI. What is FTAI? Let's check that out. FTAI Aviation. All right. Did they have an earnings report this week? Am I missing it? We'll look at it. I don't see it right away, but let's check this out. FTAI. This is looking like a strong freaking stock, man. 11 billion. Now, would I be buying right now? You know, with how extended this is. I mean, let's take a look at this. Since January of last year, so we've had a year and a half. We've had a year and a half, and it's gone up 600%. That's a very strong move. Now, when's it going to come down? I don't know. But it's only hit the 20 moving average once. So I would be curious immediately the bubble indicator starts popping off in my head, and it's getting kind of high. I think it could still run higher. Now, I don't know anything about this stock. Let's draw. It's going to be detached from even the fibs, too. If we just draw from the prior high to the low here, I mean, yeah, that's above the 2618 inside of a year and a half. So, looks like a very strong looking stock, but I would be willing to be patient. If you're only seeing this now, it's easy to FOMO into stuff like this, but I'd be patient personally and wait for a pullback. That looks like a meme coin chart. Yeah, I agree. So I don't know anything about FTI AI innovation, if it's just, what's going on with this company. But just looking at the chart specifically, yeah, this looks like a crypto. If you got some down here, I wouldn't blame you for taking profits. I mean, look at this, October 22, NVIDIA, Meta. I got NVIDIA and Meta when it was down here. And, with how strong they've run, it's dumb not to take profits when you're seeing a 10x inside of 2 years. On average, you could say 30 to 50% per year for the best stocks. When it gets detached from reality, I won't ever blame you for trying to take profits. So, looking strong, but I'd be patient for a pullback. Texas Instruments, calculator stock. Let's take a look at that one. TXN, okay. I feel like Texas Instruments, sometimes I get these articles that I'm told to read from the Motley Crew or Yahoo, and sometimes this one pops up. Overall, it looks strong. Bounces off the 200 weekly nicely. So good accumulation in here. Has a dividend. But again, I'd be willing to be patient, wait for it to come back down to those moving averages. But if you got Texas Instrument back here, hey, good job. Any others in here? Lockheed Martin. Man, with geopolitical things amping up, you want to check the war stocks because, like it or not, this is not to be political, but we do have the, what's it called? Can't think of the phrase right now that I want to say. Lockheed. I missed the letter. LMT. Let's see. Lockheed. Earnings reports, man. Look at that. Earnings and boom, went up. It's been going sideways for a bit. Boeing can even be looked at as a possibility. By the way, with all the crap that Boeing has been going through and recently CrowdStrike, let's take a look at those. I'm sure, Boeing, they've had the doors flying off the plane. It seems to have found a base, so possible deep value here on Boeing. And then CrowdStrike, they got hacked or whatever. People had to go golfing instead of working. Microsoft had all those issues. Possible to start thinking of finding a base for a CrowdStrike. Now, it's holding the 50, but anytime you see bad news about these companies screwing things up, yeah, you're going to see a sell-off. But if it's a strong stock, you might be able to get a deal. So, that's what we're trying to do here. Buy the fear, buy the FUD. Just want to take a look at that. Lockheed Martin got me thinking about that. Oh, military industrial complex. That's what the term I was thinking of. If the U.S. is going to get into any international stuff, you want to be eyeing these stocks beforehand because they tend to shoot up. Any in here? Let's look at AT&T. AT&T. This thing was falling for a while. It's testing the 200. But man, look at the last time it tested the 200 weekly. What a fake out. It's getting some strength here. I would like to see more of a higher low. Let's actually take off the... I want to see the RSI. What's the RSI showing? Sure, it's just beat the hell. Whoa, RSI is way overbought. I'd like to see what happens when the RSI comes down. If it's still higher or lower, either way, but the price gets higher. So, right here you can see lower prices but higher RSI. You see that? Lower price, higher RSI. That's bullish divergence. So when it comes down here, if it's the RSI, if the dip of it's still higher and the price starts to stabilize, you might be catching the bottom of AT&T. Again, don't invest all because the stock shows possible value. Make sure it's a product you like and use. IBM. Man, I remember when IBM was talked about as being the next Apple. So IBM just getting back up to the top in 2013. That would suck if you believed in this stock. And so, yeah, IBM just been going sideways a bit, but recently it's had this big move up. So on the weekly, had a nice bounce off the 50. Let's see if it can make a new all-time high. That's what I'd be looking for IBM, getting above this 204 range. Any others in here? Let's move on to Thursday. Texas Roadhouse, TXRH. How does Texas Roadhouse stock look? Man, Texas Roadhouse looks like one of the best stocks in the world. Now, again, it's one of those, if you're big on Texas Roadhouse, look how overbought it is on the RSI. We'll keep the RSI in for a little bit. It's a little detached from reality. It's gone down to the 200, the 100. I'd be waiting for the 50 or 100 before a dollar cost average in. But it looks like a great stock with a lot of long-term potential. Chipotle. That one has been talked about a lot because, man, they are blowing up across the country. They had a 100-to-1 stock split or something crazy. So if you got Chipotle here, $5, man, you're doing great. So right now it's at the 50. If it keeps going down, watch for these levels, the 100 or 200. Can't miss out on Chipotle, man. Hasbro, toy company. Any of you guys still buy these toys for your kids? Their chart could look better. Just been going sideways a bit. On the monthly, you could take a look at this, say, hey, it's deep value. .com bubble hasn't been at this deep of value since .com bubble and COVID. So maybe long term, you're looking at Hasbro. And on the monthly, look at that, guys. RSI is higher, price lower, bullish divergence on the monthly. Possible good value on Hasbro. But again, don't just buy the charts. We have a couple airline stocks. AAL, American Airlines. Kind of reminds me of the Boeing stock a little bit, but yeah, what a piece of crap. Hopefully this is a bottom forming for any of you American Airlines stockholders. We have Southwest, LUV. We'll get to crypto right after we talk about the most recent ones. Southwest, possible base forming here. And today, 3M. 3M will be our last one to go over. 3M is actually a stock that I've been recently getting into. Full disclosure. I like 3M. Their products, this company's been around forever. I feel like they're always going to be. I have some family that works in the medical field, and their products are everywhere, and it's one of those, they're always in the background. Good dividend stock. Now, they've had some recent FUD, some recent lawsuit stuff, something to keep in mind. With 3M, look at that movement. Let's zoom in on the weekly. Yep, earnings reports, things are looking good. RSI's bullish, 3M's bullish. Yeah, been getting some good value on this. I'm pretty happy with my 3M stock play. It's one of those where I'm like, man, this is historical good value. So that does it for stocks earnings reports. Let's get into crypto. Okay, let's talk about some different stuff with crypto. I want to talk about Bitcoin, the dominance, fear, and greed, some of the miners. Let's get into some of that. So Bitcoin, what is Bitcoin doing? Bitcoin right now You can see here with the RSI, man, look at that. RSI got down to the 50. Now, like some of the strong stocks out there, like Apple, when it's at the 50, tends to be a good time to buy, even if it goes lower. Now, it's in this channel. Let's actually zoom in on the daily. It's in this downward channel. And we have this trend line that Bitcoin's been snaking around since the beginning of this bull run. And it's staying right with that trend line. We have this gray line, that's the 2021 top. And Bitcoin in this channel, the trend line, we're getting to an area of confluence right now. And if Bitcoin can kind of stay at the 67 range and not drop down, if it drops down, we're looking at 63, 64, hopefully get a bounce. But as we get closer to this time, look at that date at the bottom, August, I think this is a possible breakout area that we're running into here. Now, I have said that things tend to be more volatile going into the election, and that might be the case. But we got to be prepared in case it isn't. And if overall Bitcoin can keep moving higher right here, I think if it blasts out of this 69, 70K range, we are looking at something like, I don't know, the mid 80s to mid 90s is something I'd be watching for. But as far as these wave patterns, you can see we had this 3-wave down movement. So I don't think that the 3-wave down movement kind of makes me think that it's just a corrective pattern, not that we are now going bearish all of a sudden. If we had, you can see right here again, 3 waves down. When we hit the channels, 3 waves down, 3 waves down. If we were changing trend, I'd be looking for 5 waves down, more of an impulsive rather than a corrective wave pattern. Talking a little bit about Elliott wave stuff. You don't have to, I don't want to get too deep into that. I try to make my channel kind of, not get too much in the weeds there. Keep things simple. But I don't see a 5-wave impulsive move down. So I am thinking maybe we're forming, I guess a bull flag, if you will, and we might just shoot up out of here. Now, if things get bearish again, we just had the Ethereum ETF, things get bearish again, a couple areas to watch for would be 59K at the 200, the lower end of the channel, 55K, and then we have this fib, the 618 fib, some price action here, 50K. I'm talking most bearish outlooks. This is my targets, one at a time though. And then here, I think this is the last area of defense here, around the 100 and this 45K. I'm not saying Bitcoin's going to get there, but if all of a sudden we started chopping down, getting through those daily moving averages, the 200, getting through the channel, getting through this fib, to me, this is the last line of defense. I'm not saying it's going to get there, but to me, this looks bullish. Now, again, on this channel, I try to remove your emotions out of it and have a plan. I am externally processing right now, guys, so you can kind of hear me say my plan out loud. And that is if, I'm not saying when, but if we get these, I'm looking to pick up that value into crypto, whatever cryptos I have. Not saying it will get there. We might just blast off. And part of me hopes we do. Ooh, we got a comment. Crypto Golfer. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for all the comments. Trump speaking at the Bitcoin conference tomorrow. If he announces a Bitcoin strategic reserve plan for the U.S., could be a huge catalyst. Could be. I guess I immediately want to go devil's advocate, and that is a lot of times when these bullish catalysts come out, a lot of times it can be a sell the news sort of thing. Like we had the Bitcoin ETF here sell the news. When we broke above the all-time highs, there was a lot of good news coming out there too, and we've been trending downward. So hopefully, I hope so. I forgot when Elon talked about Doge going to the moon, but that did help. But whenever you see commercials and celebrities, just be careful. That typically means we're getting near the end. I saw something about Scottie Pippen getting into crypto, and I was like, oh God, that might be a top signal, because him and Jordan, they're huge gamblers. And Scottie Pippen, I'm like, God, keep these celebrities out of crypto. Every time they seem to start popping out of the woodwork, I'm like, oh, the end of the cycle's coming. We have these cycle tops. Now, we're not into the orange yet. And, let's talk about the rainbow chart right now. We could take a look at, let's be conservative. Let's go above the yellow. We'll go to the yellowish orange and the orange. Is Bitcoin going to get 100K to 150K? I'm hoping. Going back over here to the weekly, you guys can see this fib I drew, right? This Fibonacci scale, or retracement. Let's take it off log, and let's eye these levels. The 1618 is at around 100K. Now, I didn't draw my fibs perfect. The 2618 is at around 150. Rainbow chart, let's say we top later this year, early next year. 100 to 150 would be in the yellow to the low end of the orange zone. Okay. So I think it depends. When is the cycle top going to happen? Is it going to happen sooner? Or is it going to happen more towards the middle? Or possibly might this be the time it happens later and we wait 6 years? I don't know. I mean, you guys have heard me talk about this. Like, part of my just general expectation. Now, I'm not married to any expectation, because every time something's different. We had a new top before the halving. That was something different. But when you average the days from a new all-time high to the next peak, 300 days, that was the new all-time high. Average from the halving to the next peak, 484 days. So I'm kind of half expecting something within this range of later this year to August. I don't know. Do we top around here? Do we top in the middle? Do we top here? Do we top after? I don't know. I might plan it in a way, it doesn't matter. But I think as the market starts to give us signs and tell us where it's going, then we'll get a better idea. So a lot of crypto YouTubers, they get married to these predictions because Bitcoin goes in these cycles. We got to wait and see what the market's going to give us. And if all of a sudden we start getting into bubble territory, that's why I like talking about stocks, guys, because the stock market affects the crypto market. And we talked about this with the S&P. Look where the recent tops are. These green lines, those were the Bitcoin double tops. Not too far away from the local top in the stock market. And I ask myself, why is that? And part of me wonders, are these hedge funds or governments, people, I don't know, entities with large sums of money, and they know the market's in a big bubble, so then they put their money in the crypto that pumps the crypto market up. They spread all this, hopium, shill everything, and then pull the profits from retail as dumb money gets in. Because dumb money, retail money, loves getting in at the end. As soon as you hear family and friends talking about crypto, get ready to pull your money or take some profits. But is that what happens? And then they take out the last of the retail gambling money, and then we go down or sideways? That's where my mind goes. I'm not saying that's correct, but that's my general thought. And I don't think we're quite there yet. I don't think we have quite hit maximum bubble territory with the AI stocks yet. Because when we do, it's all people will be talking about. Maybe the upcoming recession and all the factors will be too strong. Retail doesn't have enough money to pump it. I don't know. As far as how much money comes from retail that pumps the markets up, I've heard it's about 30-ish%. So who has more of the money? And if they're controlling things and keeping the markets propped up and it's devoid from reality, there's an expression that the stocks or the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent, something like that. So let's move over to Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance, look at that candle. We're getting higher, guys. We're getting towards that low 60%, high 50%. Now, that's my base case because we have these trend lines, one diagonal, one horizontal, from the last top. And in 21, we had alt season here. Alt season, when alts explode, is when dominance tanks. But I'm waiting for possibly one more flush. And if we're getting into volatile times, okay. But let's say we don't get super volatile, or we do get volatile times, but it goes the opposite way. So you can't help but notice this is sort of rounding over. However, devil's advocate in me says, hey, if this was a stock I bought back here and this was its chart, I would love how it's riding up the 20-week moving average. And oftentimes when stocks do that, there's a big move up. And if Bitcoin dominance all of a sudden shoots up, you're going to see altcoins not have a good time. And that might go along with whenever the Fed cuts rates. People are saying they don't mean in August, but September. So if the Fed cuts rates in September, we might get a big Bitcoin dominance spike. And then that might be the local bottom before all of a sudden we get stupid bullish. I want to say the Fed cut rates. It was around this. It was somewhere in here. Do I have that on the S&P? Ooh, 2019. The red line is when the Fed cuts rates after holding higher for longer. June 2019. Yeah, we weren't far off. June 2019. This man is right at that mid-cycle top. Fed cut rates and we went down. Well, we had COVID, so black swan event. But we were going down. Let's say this black swan never happens, just for argument's sake. Went down for about half a year. So if the Fed cuts rates, can we expect something similar? That we go down for half a year? What if that happens? What if the Fed cuts rates in September? Let's just go to the middle of September. Let's go out 180 days. Where does that put us? That puts us at March of next year. Then maybe we go down from that cut for about this time, and then March to August we shoot up. Some people are thinking we top in March, and you can see why. But again, we want to take what the market's giving us. The other bearish outlook, at least that I have right now, and that's tether dominance. So if you don't know, dominance, when we're looking at Bitcoin dominance, tether dominance, that's the overall percentage of money that's in Bitcoin or that's in Tether. Tether's a stable coin. And right now we have higher highs, higher lows. Now a little rejection. Do we come back down or do we kind of keep chopping up? And then anytime we hit this trend line as we have before, those are local tops in the market. Let's take a look at some Bitcoin mining stocks, and then we'll call it a day. Marathon Digital Holdings. Let's go over to the daily. Okay. Overall, it's still under that 236. Let's put it on a log. That changes things. Trying to get above that 618. Okay, so we want to see it spike up here to the 40 area. Let's take a look at Riot. It's trying to stay above the 382, get back to this trend line. Let's take a look at Wolf. So Wolf had a nice move up, come back down. We'll see what it does at the 50-day moving average. Might even come down here. That wouldn't worry me if it came down to the high 2 area. I might buy that up. So, guys, we talked about a lot today. Stocks, earnings reports. I know people aren't as interested in stocks as crypto. Crypto's more fun and interesting. But again, part of my plan is if I do make great money off of crypto, which is very volatile, I like to put it in safe, good stuff in stocks, things that are less volatile and can slowly grind up and pay me to own them forever. Think of that. If the stock's going to continue to move up 20% each year on average, pay you dividends, like, hey, we're paying you to own our stock. Okay. Those are some of the stocks I look at. And obviously ones with good balance sheets, as we've talked about. So, guys, thank you for watching. I appreciate you all. And yeah, I think I figured out, just to close things off, I think I figured out the cropping issue. So, only been using the software for a week. There's going to be some technical difficulties, but I appreciate you guys being patient. Thank you to all my subscribers. You guys are awesome. And yeah, we'll see how these live streams go. If people like them, don't like them. I do want to start doing more of them. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Take care.